أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So, last lesson we discussed the Maadi verb and I gave you all of the different conjugations, all 14 conjugations for the past tense active. If you remember, it was فعل, فعلا, فعلوا, فعلت, فعلتا, فعلنا, فعلتا, فعلتما, فعلتم, فعلتي, فعلتما, فعلتن, فعلتو, فعلنا. I also gave you the passive version فعل, فعلا, فعلوا, فعلت, فعلتا, فعلنا, فعلت, فعلتما, فعلتم, فعلتي, فعلتما, فعلتن, فعلتو, فعلنا. And I also showed you how to negate them. It was really simple, just add the word ma at the beginning, so you get ma fa'ala, ma fa'ala, ma fa'alu until the end, and you get ma fa'ala, ma fa'ila, ma fa'alu until the end. So if you take the word nasara, nasara would mean he helped. Nusira, the passive would mean he was helped, and then ma nasara would be he did not help, and ma nusira would be he was not helped. Okay, so those were the four tables that I asked you to memorize. And if you remember, I said that you're not actually memorizing four different tables. You're only memorizing the first table, which consists of 14 different conjugations. Then you remember the pattern difference between the active and the passive, and you apply that throughout the table. And then for tables 3 and 4, you just add the word ma at the beginning. So really all you're learning is two things. You're learning the first 14 in the first table, and you're learning the vowel difference between the active and the passive. Which is why it should only take you about 15 minutes to memorize the first table, and then the others should take you maybe 2 minutes each, if that. So today we're going to be discussing variations on the past tense verb, and then we're going to move on to the Mudaari. The Mudaari is extremely important. It's the second major category of verbs. So you have the past tense, also called the perfect tense, the perfect verb. You have the present/future tense, also called the imperfect verb, and then you have your command verb. So I've given you your perfect verb, and today we're going to discuss some variations on it, as well as giving you the Mudaari verb as well. Okay. So today we'll start off by covering variations of the Maadi. So, what will we be discussing first? We have something called the present perfect verb. The present perfect. And we can also refer to this as the near past. And this is basically when we want to refer to a verb that's happened in the past, but it's happened quite recently. It's not happened far off a long time ago. It's happened quite recently. And in English, the way we achieve that is by using the word has. So, for example, we'll say he helped, and then to convert that to the present perfect, we say he has helped. So if you were to say he has helped me, it tells the listener that somebody helped you and they helped you quite recently. And that is the meaning of the present perfect. We also have something called the past perfect, which we can refer to as the distant past. And that's when something has happened not just in the past, but it's happened quite a long time ago. And the way you do that in English is by using the word had. So instead of saying he helped, you would say he had helped. And we will discuss that afterwards. So, how do we do this in Arabic? It's extremely simple. So, we take the Arabic version of he helped, which, if you remember, is nasara, nasara, and then to make it present perfect, we simply add the word qad at the beginning. And we say qad nasara. It's as simple as that. Now, what is qad? Let's start that again. Qad is a harf which adds the meaning of recency. So if you remember from the definition of a harf is any Arabic word which has a meaning not in and of itself, but in the meaning in an upcoming word. So qad has a meaning of recency. It's not the word itself, but it's bringing out the meaning of recency in the upcoming verb. So in other words, you have nasara, helped, and it's bringing out the meaning of recency in the word nasara, in the word helped. And that's basically as simple as that. There's nothing more to say on this. In order to make an Arabic word present perfect, you just simply add the harf qad at the beginning. So it'd be qad nasara, qad nasara, qad nasaru, qad nasarat, qad nasarata, qad nasarna, qad nasarta, qad nasartuma, qad nasartum, qad nasarti, qad nasartuma, qad nasartunna, qad nasartu, qad nasarna. And because it's so simple, I'm not going to go ahead and list all 14 and write it on the screen, because it's the exact same situation as when you were negating the active and when you're negating the passive, where you just added ma at the beginning. Here you're just adding qad at the beginning. So you just substitute the word ma with the word qad. So once again, you're not learning a completely new table here. You're not going to have to sit down and memorize another 14 for another 10-15 minutes. All you're going to do is just substitute the word ma for qad, or just bring qad at the beginning. And that is the present perfect done. A few more translations just in case you're still a bit confused about what the present perfect is. So you have the verb he ate. So then to make it present perfect, you would say he has eaten. In other words, he's eaten recently. He slept, he has slept. He exercised, he has exercised, and so on. And that is your present perfect discussion over. The next one is where it gets a little bit interesting. So let's get some space and move on to what we call the past perfect. Which you can think of as the distant past. So once again, the English example, he helped. When we make it past perfect, the translation becomes he had helped. And the idea is not only has this happened in the past, but it's happened in some distant time in the past. And one thing I actually forgot to mention, if we move back up here, which I'll actually put in red because it's actually quite important, there is no negative. I.e., we do not ever say ma qad nasara. That's incorrect. So the translation here would be, what we're trying to aim for is he has not helped. He has not helped. Now, of course, in English, this is a completely valid meaning. He has not helped makes sense, it's grammatically correct, there's no issues. Now, in Arabic, if qad nasara means he has helped, you cannot negate it by bringing the word ma at the beginning. It just does not happen. It is not grammatically correct. People would look at you a bit funny. They probably understand what you were trying to say, but it would not be correct. How do you achieve this meaning? In Arabic, this meaning is achieved in a different way, almost completely different, which is why I'm not going to give you the translation here. I'm not going to give you the method here. Instead, just know that you cannot negate this type of structure. You cannot negate the present perfect by simply adding in the word ma at the beginning. Okay, so that's quite important to remember. And the second point I wanted to bring up is you would also bring qad with the passive. So instead of the translation being he was helped, the translation would be he has been helped. Okay, so maybe it's worth writing that down as well. So you would take no sira, which means he was helped, which is the passive. And then once you make it present perfect, it would become qad nusira. Nusira. And what does that mean? He has been helped. So there's actually two new tables there. Just like with the ma, you negate the active, ma fa'ala, you negate the passive, ma fu'ila. Similarly here, to make the present perfect, you can make the present perfect with the active and say qad nasara, and you can make it with the passive and say قد نصر. He was helped, he has been helped. Okay, so moving back to the past perfect in the distant past, he helped becomes he had helped. And similarly, the passive, he was helped, would become, once you make it past perfect, he had been helped. Now, interestingly with this, you can negate this structure using ma. So we'll also be covering how to say he did not help. And I want you to think about, while I do the next one, what it would become once you've made it past perfect. The passive would be he was not helped, and then make it past present. So I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds to a minute to try and think about what those translations would become once you make it past perfect. So hopefully you've thought about it and it didn't take you too long, and you would have nice and easily said the past perfect for he did not help would be he had not helped, and similarly he was not helped would be he had not been helped. Okay, so how do we do this in Arabic? And we do this by adding on. So we achieve this meaning in Arabic by adding the verb this time, not a harf. This is important, and this is why this is a lot more interesting, and we'll have a lot more to say on this than we did regarding the present perfect. So we add on the verb kana at the beginning. Now kana is a very interesting verb. It comes up everywhere. It comes up a lot of the time in the Quran. It's an extremely common verb, and there is a bit of there is quite a bit of discussion to be had in kana because it is a little bit of a complicated verb, and there's a lot to be said. So I'm just gonna give you the beginnings of this word kana, and we'll be discussing it in a lot more detail over the next coming weeks. So what else to say? Kana is what we call in English an auxiliary verb. Literally, auxiliary verb means it's like a helping verb. And what is actually helping? It's helping the verb that's going to come straight after kana. And how is it helping the verb that's coming straight after kana? It's by giving an additional meaning that would not have been possible had kana not been there. So which meaning is it giving? It's giving the meaning of distant past. Okay, so once again, kana is called an auxiliary verb, a bit difficult to pronounce. An auxiliary literally means helping. So it's a helping verb. How is it helping? It's helping by giving an additional meaning, the meaning of distant past, to the upcoming verb. And without kana, the upcoming verb would not be able to convey this extra meaning of having happened in the distant past. So it changes the meaning from simple past tense to past perfect tense, i.e., he helped goes to he had helped, he was helped goes to he had been helped. Now, so actually, before I talk about the complexity, let me just give you those two examples that I had given. So we say he helped, which is nasara, nasara. To make it past perfect, we simply add the word kana at the beginning, and the translation becomes he had helped. And how do we say that? We say that by saying kana nasara, nasara. And the passive would be he was helped, he was helped, which would be nusira, nusira. And to make it past perfect, the translation now becomes he had not been helped, and you would get kana nusira. Now, here is the golden rule, the number one rule that I want you to remember. And this is why the past perfect is a lot more difficult than the present perfect. The present perfect we finished off in within maybe 5 minutes, not that long. Whereas this one is going to take a bit longer to master. Why is it going to take a bit more longer? So, that is supposed to say a harf, which is quite horrific. That's what it's supposed to say. Okay, so I want you to read that a few times while I go ahead and box this up because this is extremely important. Oops, missed it a little bit. Start again. That's better. Because kana is a verb like fa'ala and not a harf like qad or ma, it must be conjugated like a verb. Once again, I want you to pause the video for maybe 1 or 2 minutes and try and think about what this line is actually trying to say and try and figure out why this is important. Okay? So hopefully you've done this. Now, why is this line important? What is it trying to say? If you remember from your negation and from what we've just done regarding the present perfect, I've told you that in order to negate a verb, all you do is you bring ma at the beginning. And in order to make a verb come into the present perfect, into the near past, all you do is you need to bring the word qad at the beginning. And your verb table stays exactly the same. It becomes ma fa'ala, ma fa'ala, ma fa'alu, ma fa'alat, ma fa'alata, ma fa'alna, ma fa'alta, ma fa'altuma, ma fa'altum, ma fa'alti, ma fa'altuma, ma fa'altunna, ma fa'altu, ma fa'alna. The ma does not change in all 14 of those. Same thing with the qad. If we were doing the passive, it would be قد فعل قد فعلا قد فعلوا قد فعلت قد فعلتا قد فعلنا قد فعلتا قد فعلتما قد فعلتم قد فعلتما قد فعلتن قد فعلتوا قد فعلنا. I believe I missed off قد فعلتي. Go back and have a listen. I'd be interested to know if I did actually miss that one off. But the thing I'm trying to bring your attention to is that the qad and the ma do not change in all of those 14 different conjugations. The ma stays the same throughout all 14. The qad stays the same throughout all 14. The reason they do not change is because both ma and qad are both harfs. So they do not change, they are not verbs. And remember, conjugations only apply to verbs. These are conjugation verb tables. So since ma and qad are not verbs, they don't change. However, kana, as we've just spoken about here, in order to bring the meaning of the past perfect, the distant past, we add the word kan at the beginning of the verb. But since kana is a verb in and of itself, we also need to conjugate kana along with the other verb. So, just how we would say fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'alu, fa'alat, fa'alata, we would also have to say kana, kana, kanu, kanat, kanata. So the first five, pay attention, I'll say these slowly, but pay attention to what happens to the kana. Kana fa'ala, kana fa'ala, kanu fa'alu, كانت فعلت كانتا فعلتا. So as you can see, the kana is matching exactly with the fa'ala. It's being conjugated exactly like the fa'ala is. Why? Because kana is also a verb exactly like how fa'ala is a verb. So if fa'ala is being conjugated, the kana needs to also have the exact same conjugation. Okay, so pause the video, rewind it a little bit, think about what I've just said, um, and try and get to grips with it. It is a bit difficult, especially when you try and conjugate them all. But the main thing right now is you understand what we're trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the kana needs to be conjugated along with the verb that it's coming with. Okay, so hopefully you've thought about it and it's now making a bit more sense about what we mean. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually write down all 14 for you. I didn't do this with the qad because it was pointless, because qad does not change and the verbs just stay as they are, as you've learnt in the normal 14 becomes qad fa'ala, qad fa'ala, qad fa'alu, and so on. So it's not really a new table. Whereas with the kana, since it is changing in and of itself, I think it's worth writing down all 14. Now, I'm not going to give you the full table in terms of, if you remember how I introduced the Maadi, I gave you the person column, the gender column, the plurality column, I gave you the English equivalent, then the Arabic, and then I gave you the conjugation number. I'm not going to go ahead and do all of those things because by now those different things should make a lot more sense and you should know them off by heart. So you have the third person masculine, singular, dual, plural, third person feminine, singular, dual, plural, second person masculine, singular, dual, plural, second person feminine, singular, dual, plural, and then you have the first person, singular, plural, and if you were keeping up, that was 14 different conjugations. So instead, I'm just going to give you the Arabic along with their sira, their pattern number. Okay, so here we go. Number one, it's kana, fa'ala. Number two, كانت, فعلت. Number three, and hopefully you're keeping up and try and guess what the next conjugation is going to be as I'm writing it, or even better, before I write it. كانوا, فعلوا. It's number three. Can you guess what number four is? Hopefully you can. كانت. Oh no, naughty me. So hopefully you were looking at number two and alarm bells were going off thinking, what is he doing there? That does not make any sense. And that's because it should actually be the dual. It should be kana fa'ala. Kana fa'ala. So here is kanat fa'alat. This is the second person, sorry, the third person feminine. Fa'alat. كانتا, فعلتا. That's the dual, now the plural. And here something special happens. What happens on number 6 all the way to number 14? If you remember from your fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'alu tables, from number 6, the lam letter gets a sakin. Okay, so it becomes فعلنا, فعلت, فعلتما, فعلتم, ما, فعلتم, فعلتي, and so on. From 6 to number 14, the lam, the third radical, the third root letter, gets a sukoon. And it maintains that little format all the way towards number 14. Then you get something similar here with the with kana. Now I'm going to take a little detour here, and if you were following the pattern, the lam letter would get a sukoon. So it would become ka, alif remain the same, and the lam letter, which in this case is noon, gets a sukoon. Now what would that be? It would become can. Okay, that's the way you pronounce it. And if we were to stick with the format, it would become kanta. Just like you have fa'alta, you would now get kanta. Now you can already see from the way I'm saying it that it sounds a little bit awkward. Kanta, kantuma, kantum, kanti, kantuma. And it does really sound awkward. And the Arabs realize that. So what happens is with kana, you actually do it slightly differently. You don't say can, instead you say kun. So the alif drops and the kaf gets a dhamma, and then you get the dhamma, sorry, not dhamma, the shadda there, and it becomes, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. It becomes sukoon. So it actually becomes kun. So you can see that the lam letter still has a sukoon on top of it, um, but the middle letter, the alif, has dropped, and the kaf has now got a dhamma. Now there's actually more reasons why the alif dropped. Well, the reason alif dropped is because you don't have the stretching. It doesn't become kan anymore. It becomes kan. But then there's a special reason why there's a dhamma on the kaf, and I'm not going to cover that today. That'll come in your more advanced self lessons, and you learn why that is. But for now, you just need to remember that once you get to number 6, it becomes kun. So it becomes kunta, kuntuma, kuntum, kunti, kuntuma, kuntunna, kuntu, kunna. Okay? So I'll actually leave those on there, but I'm just going to move them off to the side here. So what do we have? We now have kunna, fa'alna, fa'alna. That's why I put a shadda there before, because remember it's kun, that's number 6 onwards, and then you have the na, which is representing the third person feminine plural. So since you now have a noon sakin coming with a noon fatha, you combine them with a shadda and it becomes kunna. Okay, so that's number 6. Let's move on to number 7. Try and pause the video, think about it for a minute, and try and see what the next one would be. Okay, so hopefully you said kunta, fa'alta, kuntuma, fa'altuma, kuntum, fa, oops, so fatha, fa'altum. Now we move on to the feminine second person singular. Kunti, fa'alti. This is the same plural. Kuntuma, fa'altuma. This is the second person feminine plural. Kun, kuntunna, fa'altunna. Now we reach the first person singular. That says 13. That should say 12. Kuntu, fa'altu. And finally, last but not least, kunna. Remember, the difference between number 14 and number 6 is number 14 has an alif at the end. So it's kunna instead of kunna. And naughty me, I've written that incorrectly, because since the noons are repeated, you put a shadda on top of them. So it should actually be written this way, kunna, fa'alna. Okay, there's your table there. So from the top, كان فعل كانا فعلا كانوا فعلوا كانت فعلت كانتا فعلتا كنا فعلنا كنت فعلت كنتما فعلتما كنتم فعلتم كنتي فعلتي كنتما فعلتما كنتن فعلتن كنت فعلت كنا فعلنا. Okay, your passives would be exactly the same, so I'm not going to go ahead and write those the next 14 for the passives. because in that case the kana stays the same. The kana does not become passive. The kana stays as it is. It's the verb that's coming after that becomes passive. So it would be kana fu'ila, kana fu'ila, kanu fu'ilu, kanat fu'ilat, kanata fu'ilata, kunna fu'ilna, kunta fu'ilta, kuntuma fu'iltuma, kuntum fu'iltum, kunti fu'ilti, kuntuma fu'iltuma, كنتن فعلتن كنت فعلت كنا فعلنا. And if you actually noticed, I think I made a mistake on number 10 and 11. I was actually saying فعلتي actually, with a dhamma on the ain. So this one is a bit tricky. I've not done it for myself in a very long time. Um, so that's why going off memory, even I'm making one or two mistakes. But that's fine, we can learn it together, I guess. So this one is tricky because the first five are okay because it follows the exact same pattern. Kana, fa'ala, kanu, fa'alu, kanat, fa'alat. It's from six onwards that it becomes difficult because it's not fa'alna, it's kunna. So it sounds a bit different. It doesn't rhyme like the other ones previously do. So this is going to take maybe another 10 minutes for you to learn, but it shouldn't be too difficult. And remember, what is the point of kana in here? Kana is making the verb past perfect. Okay, distant past. He helped becomes he had helped. He was helped becomes he had been helped. The negation is quite simple. You just add the word ma at the beginning. So here you can add ma. Here's an advanced secret for you. The reason you could not add ma before is because if you said ma qad nasara, then you have two harfs coming together, and that's not sanctioned by the language. You can't have two harfs coming in that way, because a harf has to govern a non-harf. Um, actually, is that correct? Scrap that because I don't think that's 100% correct. I think there are actually certain places where that does happen. But anyway, that's fine. Ignore that. You don't get maqad, but you do get ma coming at the beginning of kana because kana is a verb. So you can do this. So you can say ma kana fa'ala, ma kana fa'ala. And then for the passive, it would be ma kana fu'ila, ma kana fu'ila. Okay, and the translation there would be he helped would become he had not helped, and he was helped will become he had not been helped. Okay, so that's with the passive. Now, again, take 10 minutes to memorize those, and then I'm going to move straight into the Mudaari version of the verbs. Okay, so now it's time for us to move on to the Mudaari, the imperfect verb. So if I just fix my pen, one moment. So we have the al-fi'l al-mudari', which stands for the imperfect verb. Okay, not very well written, but there we go. It means, oh, that was even worse. The imperfect verb. So, this is the past tense verb. Actually, nope, not fully correct. So this has one of three meanings. So in total, it has three meanings, which are known as the simple present. Oh gosh. The simple present, the continuous present, and the future. So here are your examples of each. So for the simple present, you would say he helps. So the reason it's simple is because you're just making a statement, he helps. You're not saying necessarily he's doing it now. You're not saying he's doing it in the future, you're just making a general statement that he just generally helps. Okay, that's what's called simple present. Then you have the continuous present, which would be translated as he is helping, and it's continuous because he's doing it right now and it's an ongoing action, so it's continuous. And then finally you have the future, and that would be he will help. Okay, now that's the meanings talked about. How do we actually go ahead and construct the mudari? Now this is a little bit more complicated, but hopefully it will make sense by the end of the video. So number one, all mudari'as, all mudari' verbs have a prefix at the beginning. Oops. Oh, I went a bit blonde there for a moment. All mudari' verbs have a prefix at the beginning, and then number two, most also have a suffix. Okay, so let's talk about number one in a bit more detail. We need to distinguish between the Maadi and the Mudaari'. Vowels are enough because when writing so if you remember, I've mentioned before, in Arabic books, you don't write the vowels. They are vowel-less. So therefore, vowels aren't enough here. They aren't right for the job. Because if you're only distinguishing between the Mudari and the Madi using vowels, when it comes to reading an Arabic book, you would be confused. You wouldn't know which verbs were Madi, which verbs were Mudari. The context might be able to pinpoint it, but it's too much of a difficult task. It would take far too much work, and in fact, reading would be really bothersome. So instead, what we do is we bring a letter at the beginning, and that letter helps us to pinpoint the fact that the verb is a mudari'. It's a present slash future tense verb. So what are these letters? These prefixes are one of the letters of the word, and here it is. How do we finish this? Yeah, no alif at the end. Tayna. So that's a noon at the end. So what that means is the prefixes will be one of the letters of atayna. So either the prefix will be a hamza, or it will be a ta, or it will be a ya, or it will be a noon. In other words, the mudari' verb will either start off with a hamza, it will either start off with a ta, either a ya or a noon. It must start with one of these letters for it to be a mudari' verb. So automatically when I say to you the word fa'ala, automatically you discount that it's a mudari' verb because it does not start off with one of the letters of atayna. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And This isn't too important. You learn it as you're going along, but I'll just mention it now. So yeah is used for 4, and those are 1, 2, 3, and number 6. Then you have ta, which is used for 8. So that is number 4, and then 7 through, oops, pen's dubbed out, one moment. 7 through to 12. Is that 8? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What am I missing? Oh, because it's not 4, it's 4 to 5. Let's just start again. It's used for 4 to 5, and then 7 through to 12. That's right. Yeah, that's 8, and then 5, and then we have never used yellow before, and I think we now realize why I've never used yellow before. Good Lord. Limey, never using yellow again. That actually says Hamza is used for 1, which is number 13. And then finally, you should be able to guess, quick maths, how many is Noon used for? Quick, before I write it. Is used for, yeah, number 1. You probably got it wrong, I know. There you go. It's used for the last one, number 14. Okay, let's just get rid of the fatha there, which is not supposed to be there. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do, this isn't again too important, but some people find it helpful, which is why I'm going to mention it here. The actual order is as follows. Those are fas. I know they look like qafs. Hopefully the next ones won't look as bad. Yeah, that's better. So yaf, 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 and I'll explain what I'm doing here afterwards. Taf, taf. In fact, try and think about what I'm doing here. So basically, remember, conjugations have 14 conjugations. The third person masculine, 3. The third person feminine, 3. 6 yous, and then I and we. So the actual, using the fa'ala model, you actually start off with yaf, 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 3 yafs. You then do 2 tafs, taf, taf, and then you do the final yaf. Then you have 6 tafs, taf, 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 representing all of the second person feminine and masculine. Then you have af, which is the singular I, and then you have naf, which is the plural one, and that noon is, I think it's there, but I'll just put it here so you can see that that's a noon. So if you can do this, yaf yaf yaf, taf taf, yaf, taf taf taf, taf taf taf, af naf, you're 30% of the way to mastering the Mudaari table. Okay, once again, yaf yaf yaf, taf taf, yaf, taf taf taf, taf taf taf, af naf. Yaf yaf yaf, taf taf, yaf, taf taf taf, taf taf taf, af naf. And also then I was going to do it once, but I actually quite like the way it sounds. So there we go. If you can remember that little order, it's similar to the ta tumatum, ti tumatunna, which makes it a little bit easier to do the 8, those 8 from the Maadi tables. Similarly, these 14 will help you to remember what the prefixes are. Okay, so that's the prefixes talked about. Now we need to talk about the suffixes. My pen's dubbed out once again. Where, Come on. Right. So let's move on to number 2, the suffixes. So 5 conjugations will have no suffixes. Um, okay, I'll list those 5 for you. They are number 1, number 4, number 1, 2, 3, 4, number 7, number uh, number 13, and number 14. Okay, so it's the third person masculine singular, the third person feminine singular, the second person masculine singular, the first person singular, and the first person plural. Okay, so what number 1, number 4, number 7, number 13, number 14. And I appreciate looking at those numbers. It may not be as easy to just associate the numbers to the correct conjugation table, but you do need to get comfortable with associating these numbers to their correct conjugation, because it takes, it's not nice to always have to say third person masculine singular, or say third person feminine singular, or second person feminine singular. It would be nice if you could just say a number and automatically know which numbers you refer to which, but it does take a bit of time, and I appreciate that, but it is worth getting to know. So 5 conjugations will have no suffixes. Those are 1, 4, 7, 13, and 14. An easy way of remembering these is we refer to them as the 5 singulars, although it's not 100% true. Okay, it's not really the 5 singulars, but we just say it in order to give us our brain a nice little label to these 5 that do not have suffixes. Because if you look at number 1, that's a singular, third person masculine singular. Number 4 is the third person feminine singular. Number 7 is the second person masculine singular. Number 13 is the first person singular. So you have 4 of those which are singulars. Now the one that breaks the rule is number 14, because number 14 is actually the first person plural, we. So it's actually a plural. And the other reason why it's not fully a singular is because if you look at there, there's a number that's missing. Number 10 is missing. And what is number 10? Number 10 is the second person feminine singular. Okay, so it's actually missing there. So technically number 14 should be number 10. Then it would technically be the 5 singulars. But since 4 of those 5 are the singulars, it's just easy to think of them as the 5 singulars. Okay, from now on, I am going to refer to them as the 5 singulars, just so you know. Okay. Now, the remaining 9 conjugations, because remember there are 14, the remaining 9 are broken down as follows. There are actually 4 groups, and these are a lot easier than the 5 singulars to remember. So, group number 1, 4 of these conjugations, actually, instead of saying it like that, no, that's fine. 4, in brackets, I'll tell you which 4. They are the 4 duals, will end in Annie. That little thing here is a placeholder for a letter, okay? Specifically, the third root letter. It's going to be the Ain letter will go there, okay? Remember, sorry, not the Ain letter, the Lam letter will go there. Remember, Fa, Ain, Lam refer to the first, second, third root letters. So the Ain letter will actually go there. You may or may not have seen this before, but that's fine. So 4, it will end in Ani. These are your little duals, and you will have heard of those before. That little Ani thing, if you remember, we did Waladani, Tawilani. It's actually the same for an ism as well as the Mudaari verb. Both duals end the same way. They have an Ani ending. Okay, so that's 4. 2, which 2? The 2 masculine plurals Remember, one is the third person masculine plural, they. One is the second person masculine plural, you all. So two will end in una, una. Oh, I'm running out of space. I'm gonna have to squish these in. And then another two, and these are the two feminine plurals, will end in um, that's a fatha, and then that's a sukoon. Um, so the lam letter here will have a sukoon, and then you'll have a noon with a fatha afterwards. That looks like an E. That should be an I. And then finally, how many is left? Quick, 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 before I give it to you. You probably didn't get it once again. Oh, you actually have more time because I chose blue and I've already used blue. Quickly think about how many are left. What number am I going to assign here? I'm actually struggling with which color I want. Let's use pink. I've not used pink before. You probably still didn't get it because you're a failure. It's actually a 1. There's only one left. Actually, here is another little exercise for you. Which one am I talking about? Quick, I'll leave a little bit of a blank while I give you what the ending is. Once again, you're probably not going to get it anyway. Will end in Ina. Ooh, that should be a bit of a hint. Which one am I talking about? Which one? Which one? Which one? Second person singular feminine. تفعلين. Remember, I've asked you. تفعلين. ما تفعلين. I've used a few Arabic verbs with you where they end in ina because they are the second person singular feminine. Okay, so you actually have all 14 suffixes. You have all 14 prefixes. And now I'm ready to give you the actual full on table. Here we go.